Welcome, everyone. My name is Karl Palachuk, and you are at the big State of the Nation address for SMB Consulting. This is the 6th year that I've been doing this, and it's just kind of my way of introducing the year and kind of seeing where we've been and where we're going. Totally my perspective, totally just my opinion on things. I am a writer, a blogger, a podcaster, an IT consultant, an IT coach, and I happen to own a managed service business. Some of you are hearing me for the first time, so let me take a minute and introduce myself. I owned a small technology consulting company in Sacramento, California for 16 years, and I sold that company a few years ago, and I then went to work for them for 3 years, and I was their salesman, their systems engineer, chief systems engineer. I went to the roadmap meetings with clients and sort of took care of a lot of the client relationship piece of the business. And then that business was sold last year, and so I started a new managed service business, and right now I have a handful of clients and a handful of part-time assistants. We transitioned from computer support on demand, break fix as they call it, to managed services in 2005. And although I've been offering flat fee services and generating recurring revenue since 1999, we dove headlong into the cloud in 2009. And so I've been kind of doing this for about 20 years and enjoying it very, very much. I've also written 15 books, most of them about how to be more successful as a technology consultant. My most recent book is actually a 4-volume set of books called the Managed Services Operations Manual. And I also released a book called Project Management in Small Business in 2014 with my friend Dana Goulston. My hottest book for the last 6 years has been Managed Services in a Month, and this book is currently in its 2nd edition. All of those books are available at smbooks.com, and on top of that, I have a blog at smallbizthoughts.com. I also have a weekly newsletter that highlights what's new and hot in the SMB community. So I'd ask folks towards the end, I want to open up the microphones if it makes sense. I encourage you to make sure your speakers are unmuted so you can hear me if you're having any issues. We are not using the chat function on the GoToWebinar, so at the end when you have questions, if you use the question section, that would be great. If you wish to hashtag this or say anything on Facebook or Twitter, the hashtag just managed services is awesome as far as I'm concerned, and it's not that long. So here are some of the properties, the brands that Small Biz Thoughts has, and I won't go into any detail in any of these, but I do want to encourage you to think about your world as one in which you need more than just one tiny little website. Whether if you have a product that you're pushing, you can create a page just for your product. If you have a website for your business and then a website for a specialization within your business, you should create pages for those. You should have pages with a certain offer and have many ways that people get to see you, get to find you on the internet. It truly is a web where people get caught in your web and then you funnel them down to the middle where you can sell them something. So think about that when you think about your web presence. It should be maybe not as complicated as mine, but it should certainly be something that is complicated enough that you can get a variety of people sucked into your little corner of the world. I want to take a minute today to look back on where we were and then look forward on where we're going, and then we're going to have some announcements, and after that I'm going to talk about the year ahead and some visions about ways that you can make money or think about your business. Last year was super crazy for us. I was traveling all over the United States, plus made trips to Australia and New Zealand, and did a bunch of webinars, some for me, some for SMB Nation and other companies, plus ran a big program for Zinstra, which is a company that is got a hybrid cloud solution that they're introducing to the United States, and we're still working with them. Hope to do some more with them this year. And then we had our big SMB Roadshow, which I did a number of shows with Jennifer Landers last year, and the SMB Pre-Day, of course. So lots and lots of stuff going on. And on top of all of that, next week is the first anniversary of our Odd Tuesdays podcast series that is produced by Monica Caraway, our marketing manager. And it's 100% free, it's fun, and it's filled with great information. So you can check that out at oddtuesdays.com. I hope what you're seeing here is that Small Biz Thoughts has put together a lot of resources for the SMB community. And some of it's for pay, obviously, but an awful lot of it is for free. So I hope that you'll engage us this year and then see if there's any way that we can help you grow your business. So let's look at some announcements first for this year. We want to talk about some of the stuff that's going on in the immediate future, and then look back at 2014 and talk about ways to improve your business and help you really create a thriving business. And you're going to see that's my theme for this year. In terms of announcements, immediately next week I'm off to Southern California for the SMB Tech Fest, and I would be happy to have you join me there, either live or over the internet, and that's run by my friend Dave Seibert. And then in the spring, we're going to do some SMB road shows. And this year, this spring, the SMB road shows are going to feature my brother Manuel. He and I wrote 2 versions of a very large book together, about a 600-page book called the Network Migration Workbook. And Manuel's currently working on another book. And on these road shows, I'll be talking about standard operating procedures and building your brand to represent your successful business. Manuel's going to talk about the metrics, methods, and best practices for taking your business to the next level. All the companies that we work with, your company, my company, the companies that are your clients, need to evolve from just getting by to thriving. And unfortunately, most small businesses don't even succeed at getting by. And that means that most small businesses fail. Most of them simply go out of business, and it's about 80% of all small businesses go out of business every 5 years. So if you've been getting by for a long time, that's great. But I know people who have been getting by for 20 years, and now they're approaching retirement and they have no money in the bank. And I really want to help you thrive, which means taking a big step beyond just getting by. And going beyond the thriving stage means being truly successful, of making your business part of your dream and making your dream come true. And we're literally going to focus on building the kind of business that makes everything operate at a higher level. And you can just stay tuned to my weekly newsletter for more information as that evolves. Meanwhile, over at Great Little Seminar, we have a series of 10 courses this year. 6 of them are repeat courses that were offered last year, and 4 of them are all brand new courses. And so if you check out greatlittleseminar.com, we have all the details there. I just launched a brand new webinar series called The Globalization of SMB. The first recorded webinar is posted at smallbizthoughts.com. Just click on there's a link there at the top, on the top menu, that says Globalization of SMB. The first show featured Harry Brailsford from SMB Nation. Our next show is January 27th, and it will feature Robert Crane from Sydney, Australia, and that airs on the final Tuesday of each month. We're going to post the recordings on that site, so if you go to smallbizthoughts.com and just click on Globalization of SMB, you'll find all the recordings there. And part of it is just a realization that the world is getting smaller and smaller. I mean, even just the last few weeks with the terrorism in France and so forth, the world has come together in a way that is very different than what it was 10 and 15 and 20 years ago. And so we want to figure out, what does that mean to you? What does that mean to the SMB space? Coming up in the middle of the year is my 4th annual SMB online conference. And the theme this year is Time to Thrive. And that will be June 23rd, 24th, and 25th. And that's a Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. It's basically 9 a.m. to 3 p.m. Pacific time, all 3 days. And so there's 15 hours of education and jam-packed information. We don't have anything up on the SMB Online Conference site yet, but we will shortly. And so that will be something you just mark your calendars for. And then the SMB pre-day this year is October 1st in Redmond, Washington. And of course, I would love to have you join me there and at the SMB Nation Fall Conference in Redmond, which is held on the Microsoft campus. All right, enough of all of that. Now, for new stuff, we are going to be announcing next month a big promotional program for folks in the SMB space, and it's really intended to help you standardize some of the stuff that you do around promotion and marketing and do it at an affordable rate, and something that we think that all businesses, not just IT, but all businesses can benefit from. But we're going to focus on the small business IT consultants because that's who our audience is. And so anyway, look for an announcement on that. Again, if you get my newsletter, you won't miss anything. All right, let's look back to 2014 and ahead to 2015. One of the most interesting things that happened is, we all knew that the next version of Windows was going to come out. I still have heard no rational explanation of why we skipped 9 and went from 8 to 8.1 to 10. And if you've used 10, I've had it since they announced the preview. It seems interchangeable with 8.1. And I have asked the question and have only gotten smart-ass answers so far. But other than putting in a usable start menu, I don't see any difference between Windows 10 and Windows 8.1. And I would love to have somebody tell me what the differences are and what's, how I'm going to sell this to my clients other than the fact that they don't have any options. Note, if you will, that the licensing of being able to get the current version and the N-1 version means that Windows 7 is going to go away really, really soon. Right now, I go on to D&H or Ingram and I go to look at machines that are pre-built. Virtually all of them come with a license for Windows 8.1, but they've been downgraded to Windows 7 because that's the only thing anybody wants to buy and it's the only thing anybody wants to own. Clients understand it and they like it and it makes sense to them. The Windows 8, 9, 10 interface does not make sense to them. And 10 is certainly more usable than 8. But as soon as 10 is released, the N-1 is going to be Windows 8.1. So you need to be very, very aware that if your clients want the Windows 7 interface, they need to get it sooner rather than later. And that, the last 5 paragraphs I just gave you is something that you should put into a newsletter and send to your clients. You should talk about it a lot. And if you think that they are hung up on the Windows 7 interface, you need to use that as a sales opportunity. This is literally one of the big sales opportunities of 2015 is pushing new Windows 7 machines. Of course, they can buy just the operating system, but more importantly, push them to say, look, you got a 3-year-old or a 5-year-old machine, now is the time for you to buy that new equipment and to get it with the Windows 7 interface. There are rumors that the Windows 10 upgrade will be free for anybody who's got Windows 8. So theoretically, if you go buy that Windows 7 machine that's really a Windows 8 that's been downgraded to Windows 7, if the rumor is correct, you'll be able to upgrade straight to Windows 10 without any additional costs when the time comes. I don't know how all that's going to work, but anyway, that's what the world looks like in terms of the desktop operating system. And all of that seems to be an opportunity for people to start selling Macintoshes again and put Macs into the business environment. The other thing that's happening is that Server 2003 expired, and as of this month, there is no support of any kind for the Windows Server 2003 except the extended support, and so that extended support will end in July of this year. All support for Windows 2008 died except extended support, which will last through 2020. So again, those are things that are opportunities, and we're going to talk a bit about SBS and kind of what it means for your future a little bit later in the hour. So that's kind of where we are with operating systems, in my opinion. I think it's a huge opportunity for you to be selling into businesses that have put off upgrades for 5, 6, 7 years. In terms of other stuff that's going on, you know, we all thought that HIPAA was going to be this big thing that everybody was going to panic over the high-tech amendment, and that doctors would come in line, and it all seemed to amount to essentially nothing. So that was kind of an interesting switch that a lot of us did not anticipate. I still think that there is a huge opportunity for those of you who want to specialize in the medical fields. But unless you become a HIPAA specialist with a specific program to push evaluations, remediations, and maintenance, I don't think you're going to see a huge demand. I think if one of the things you do is say, hey, we are, you know, HIPAA specialists. I mean, you can be all kinds of specialists. You don't have to be just one kind. But if one of the kinds of things you specialize in is HIPAA compliance, I think you can make a lot of money on that. More and more people are dividing into, I don't want to touch it, and I'd be happy to take it on. In the middle, which has currently been the largest group, is the people who have some medical clients and they don't want to get rid of them, so they're just kind of doing nothing. I think that will, in fact, go away as people look at what their liability is. I also encourage you, if you're looking at HIPAA, to talk to your insurance folk and make sure that you know where your insurance stands, and I think that'll be a bit of a wake-up call to verify that if you're working with medical clients that you have the correct liability insurance and errors and omissions. In terms of the economy, the stock market did very well last year. Some sectors are still stumbling and trying to stand up straight, but money's beginning to flow more easily, and it looks like 2015 will be a great year to be fully invested. I'm not saying that we're completely out of the woods. This recovery was slow to start and slow to get going, and it's had some stops and starts, and that will happen again. And, you know, one of the lessons that I've learned as someone, I've been investing for over 20 years, and, you know, if I know one thing, it's that on any given day, the stock market can go down 20%. And that means that the next day is also another given day. It can go down another 20%. So, you know, we really went through some serious stuff that started in the fall of 2008, but we are now at new highs, and we will probably see a Dow exceeding 20,000 this year. And so later on, we're going to talk about, you know, a piece of the business that a lot of you have not done, which is to take money out of your business and actually invest it in something. But this is a good year to do that. This is a great year to set yourself up to thrive on that front. In terms of client opportunities, one of the truly amazing things right now is that Small Business Server still dominates the SMB space, the small and medium business space. So let me take a minute and take you on a ride. Let's look at where the market, you know, is today for small business. For just a minute, assume that you have never heard of Small Business Server. Let's begin with the beginner's mind. Let's say that you enter the SMB market today. What do you see before you? You go knocking on doors and you talk to strangers and you look at people who've got 5 and 10 and 20 desktops. What you see is millions of small business servers that need to be replaced. Most of them are 2003. There are lots of 2008. and there are some, 2011. The 2003s are all ancient and out of date. Soon they will have no maintenance options whatsoever, although the SMB clients have traditionally not cared about that. When you ask your SMB clients, what are they going to do if Microsoft cancels maintenance, they'll say, well, I've never called Microsoft. I called Karl. So what do I care if Microsoft cancels maintenance? That doesn't mean anything to me. So those are all ancient. Anyway, all of those servers, the 2003s, the 2008s, and now even the 2011s, are all ready to be replaced. And as cloud services become more robust, you're probably moving most of your clients to cloud services in one way or another. There are lots of projects and there are lots of labor involved. Again, most of those clients will need some kind of on-site storage because they need fast access to their files. And it would be great for them to have Active Directory on site. That means you're going to be creating a lot of hybrid environments. Email and backup are going to be in the cloud, probably. You might have a backup on site that backs up to the cloud. Storage and Active Directory are going to be on site. If you have CAD or graphics or large databases, those are probably going to be on site. Most line of business apps are now moving to the cloud, so that part is going to be up in the cloud. And I firmly believe that this hybrid model, having some things on site, having some things in the cloud, is absolutely the, all capitals, T-H-E, the way that technology is going to be implemented for at least the next 5 years. So this is your new normal. And servers are becoming lighter and lighter. Cloud services are becoming more robust. I mean, this is where we are. Even if you have slow internet, and you've been telling me for 5 years that your internet is too slow, or that you live in a country or a city where you have intermittent connectivity, you're going to keep a lot of stuff on site, but you're still going to synchronize with the cloud. And that will evolve over time. And right now there are lawsuits against and movements against some of the providers that have unnecessarily slow networks simply because they have no competition. So that is continuing to evolve. And I think that you need to just work on creating your vision of what the little cloud system looks like. What does the on-site server look like? I am working with 2 clients who have servers that were brand new last year, big, beefy, ProLiant, top-of-the-line servers, and both of them are looking at alternatives over the next 3 years. So no matter who your clients are, the world is going to continue to evolve. You will still have servers. You will still have desktops, and you will still have monitors and printers and all the equipment that exists on site. But you're going to add some things to that mix as well. You're going to see more and more 3D printing, and I think this is a year where you will begin to actually see 3D printers at your clients' offices. Help them figure out how to make money with that. You're going to see drones and quadricopters and people playing with that and trying to figure out how to make money with that. You're going to see robotics. You're going to see little things in your client's office that you hadn't seen before. And if you can't support 3D printers and drones and robotics and tinkering and makering and all of that, you need to decide whether you want to be in that business or are you just a network technician, right? So you have some choices to make. I will tell you, if you are getting bored with your business, if you are getting to the point where you're thinking that you might get burned out on technology, the tinkering and the makering and the robotics and the drones and the 3D printing is pretty fun stuff. I mean, it's if you're the classic nerd who got into technology because you love technology, well, this is a great fun time to reinvigorate your interest in the technology that makes your business go. But please be open to learning these new technologies. You might even find an industry niche that excites you and helps you focus on a vertical that has a very specific need. Many of us have added security cameras and telephones and other things to our offerings simply because they have IP addresses. You know, anything that's got an IP address, whether it's a security system or an alarm system or video or whatever, if it's got an IP address, we can master it much more easily than the people selling those things can master Active Directory and converting something from a small business server environment to a standalone Active Directory environment. So as the year begins, I encourage you, as I always do, to look at what you want to do with your company, but also one of the great opportunities for your clients is to hold roadmap meetings. And I would encourage you, I don't care how many clients you have, I would encourage you to schedule a client roadmap meeting with every single client. Start with your largest clients and work your way down. Help them figure out what they're going to do with technology. Find out whether they're growing or shrinking. If they're growing, help them save money. Literally avoid being a salesperson in this meeting. Help them rejigger the technology they have to save a bunch of money. And they're going to see you as somebody who is really truly there to be a strategist and an advisor and helping them make good choices right now. And then when it's time, when they've got a budget, they will call you. I recently took on a client who used to be in my old consulting company, and she asked me for a roadmap meeting, and she said she missed them. She looks forward to planning their technology and feeling like they know where they're going. And so, you know, if this is not a sales meeting, but I guarantee sales come out of it every single time. It's one of the easiest, simplest things that you can do to sell deep into your existing clients. All righty. Now let's look forward to the year ahead. I want you to thrive, and this is my theme for the year, is to make your business thrive. And it's more than just getting by. It's more than making 5% or 10% or having a new kind of revenue. It is about vigorous growth, right? It's about becoming prosperous. It's about having your personal and your professional goals meld together, and so your business supports who you are and what you want to do as the years go on. And that's something that many people have never considered to be part of their business. And I'm going to talk a bit about the stages of the evolution of a thriving business. And most of us, almost everybody I know, in fact, in the IT business, in fact, most small businesses, most people are right in the middle. They're at stage 3 or stage 4. And so we're going to talk about, well, how do you get to 5, 6, 7? And unfortunately, there's one stage where most people get to by dying. So we're going to see how we can get beyond that stage without dying. So stage 1 is to simply establish your business. And again, the early stages are ones that almost everybody has already gone through. So I can't imagine I have very many people on this call who are just starting to get into IT. But stage 1 is to establish your business. And by that, I simply mean that you are setting up your business and you're creating it, putting it in place, getting the licensing, and, you know, blah, 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 all the things it takes to set up your business. And so let's just assume everybody here is beyond this stage. Now, stage 2 is growing your business. And this is one where a lot of people haven't done a very good job. Growing your business consists of basically, you know, once you open the doors, you're going to go find some clients. And some people find them by walking door to door to door. One of my favorite stories is a guy here locally in Sacramento that he quit what he was doing at about age 40 and decided he wanted to go into IT, and he took classes and passed tests and got his small business specialist certification. And then I met with him, and he came to me one time when he had a client with 70 desktops and he wasn't sure what to do. And I'm like, holy smokes, how did you get a client with 70 desktops? And he said, oh, well, the only marketing I do is I print up business cards. And, you know, he's got this very average business card. And he said, and I pick a neighborhood, and I literally walk into every single business, and I hand them my business card and say, does anybody here want to talk about technology? And I remember that very phrase, very precisely. Does anybody here want to talk about technology? And so he walks into an office where they go, oh, I don't know. Let me ask the person in charge of technology. So then they call the in-house IT person, who sits down with him and proceeds to talk about this big project they got, and they have to refresh everything, and they've got a small business server that's almost at capacity, and they want to refresh desktops, and they've got these old machines that are falling apart. And anyway, the point is, he got this job, and now he doesn't know how to handle it, but that was many, many years ago. But the very basic process of growing your business is something that we all figure out. If you don't figure out how to grow your business in the first couple of years, it simply ceases to exist. And so most of us have learned a certain piece of growing the business. So we go get some clients, and we unfortunately, pretty much everybody in small business takes every client that will give them money. And so what happens is that you end up with a collection of oddballs, right? You've got some places that do car maintenance, and you got some places that sell insurance, and you've got a couple of lawyers, and you might have a doctor and a dentist, and on and on and on. So you've got this odd collection of people that you call your clients, and you don't really think about who they are at that point. You only think about, do they pay well, do they do the right thing, and do they give you advance notice before they hire somebody and expect you to show up and install a new desktop, and so forth and so on. So you begin to grow your business, and then at some point you have to stop and say, all right, what am I really doing here? And that's where stage 3 comes in. Stage 3 is rejiggering. And rejiggering just means that you look around and you say, well, should I try this thing called managed services? Should I think about specializing in this line of business application? Should I become a QuickBooks specialist? Should I only take clients that are worth $500 a month or $800 a month or $2,000 a month? Should I only support people with 10 or more desktops? Should I only support people who are going to sign a service agreement, right? So in the rejiggering stage, you literally sit down and you say, all right, so what do I do that I like, and what do I do that I don't like, and so forth. And this is something that most businesses, somewhere between 5 and 10 years in business, they've rejiggered at least once. And you might rejigger, you might stay at this stage rejiggering for a long, long time. But eventually you get to the point where you've got a system that works for you. You've found the collection of clients that you want. You might have fired a few clients. You might have decided that you only want to focus on home business, or you never want to focus on home business. Whatever it is, you've sort of formally thought about your business as a business. And that's a huge step, right? Because once you think about your business as a business, instead of a way to, like, how do I get by month to month and pay the bills and make sure the lights are on and hire my first employee, right? When you've gotten to the point where you say, I want to think about my business as a business, it begins to take on a life of its own. And until your business takes on a life of its own, it can never be truly, massively successful. You can never separate yourself from it, right? Until your business can live on its own, you are the business. And as long as you are the business will die the minute you die, and the business will fail the minute you're not there. So, I know so many people that I look around and I think, what will happen when they pass away? How long will that business last? Including some businesses that make millions of dollars a year. But as soon as the principal dies, they simply fade away. And I've seen this more than once. And it is actually a very sad thing. But in the rejiggering, once you get into that phase, then you work for a while and you rejigger for a while. You work for a while and you rejigger for a while. If you're lucky, then you get to stage 4. And I know a significant number of people who are at stage 4. And stage 4 is you've figured it out. You've got a process that works for you. It may not look like my business. It may not look like other successful businesses that we know in the IT space. It may not look like some of the big names you've heard out there, but it works for you. It's something where it's not quite on autopilot, but you know day to day, week to week, month to month, you've got so much work coming in. You've figured out how many employees you need per client. You've got a way that you make money. You've got standard stuff that you sell, right? You literally just, this is the rinse and repeat part of the business. And this, if you're lucky, you will reach this without spending 15 years doing it. And if you're lucky, this will last 15 or 20 years. And that's entirely possible, and it's manageable, and it's doable. And you know what you sell, the exact precise things that you sell will change over time, but you will be able to go to town and just put your head down and keep doing this thing. And again, most people are going to be stuck at stage 3 or stage 4 in their business forever. And unfortunately, what that means is that you don't get to the point where you actually become a next level business. And of course, next level is a different thing for everybody. But in this case, you figured out what you're going to do and you just go to town. And I will say, in my business, I was clearly at stage 4 between 2003 and 2008. That period with Small Business Server and a massively stable environment and the economy was going well, it was like we couldn't do anything that didn't make money, right? So we just went to town, and you know, we put some money aside, don't get me wrong. We put all kinds of money aside and we invested and we did some other things, but we did a great job of just doing the same thing again and again and again for 5 years, and it was awesome. Stage 5 is the next one, and that's where you actually consciously, instead of just giving yourself an extra paycheck here and there, you invest your profits. And by that I mean you take money from your business and you consciously and intentionally choose something to do with that money and you make it happen. And that might mean investing in real estate. It might mean investing in the stock market. You know, I like to tell the story of how I got what I call wealthy selling IT services. And the truth is I didn't get wealthy selling IT services. What I did is I used my IT business to make money to invest in other things that did really, really well. If 100% of your money is invested in your IT business, you can hardly ever become wealthy. You've got all your eggs in one basket, and when something goes south, it all goes south at the same time. There are two kinds of revenue. There's earned income and there's unearned income. Earned income is what you take home in a paycheck. And if what you do is you run your business and you pay yourself a paycheck and you take it home, you are never going to become wealthy. Very, very few people have a paycheck that gives them an extra $10,000, $20,000, $30,000 a year. It just doesn't happen. Unearned income means that you've put that money into an investment. Again, real estate, stock market, almost anything. And you can have very, very safe investments. So I'm not encouraging people to go out and start gambling, but when your business gets to the point where you have intentionally decided to take money and put it into other things, that's where wealth comes from, because you have this unearned income. Your rental property might go up and might go down, and there might be a stock market crash and there might be a real estate crash, but it will just sit there, and it will sit there and it will sit there, and eventually all those things go up. Part of what happens at stage 5 is you have moved to thinking of the world in very, very long terms. You're now looking not at the horizon of the next month or the next year. You're looking at the horizon of 15 or 20 years from now. You're looking at, what do I do for my retirement? And the really, really, really good news is that Americans as a whole are really bad at saving and investing and preparing for their future. Most people, the average American, retires with a net worth of less than $200,000. I think it's about $180,000, which is not very large. If you think about it in those terms, you don't have to have 20 years to save up that kind of money. What you need is a system to take money from your business, invest it wisely, and be good at making sure that you make those payments, buy that rental property, invest in something. And again, I'm not talking about investing in diamond mines or gold mines or weird stuff. I'm talking about very sound, safe investments that will simply work for you. The people who have JOBs know all about this, right? They got a job and they take whatever 10% of their income and they put it in the bank. And so what happens is there's an awful lot of people who have worked for the state or worked for the feds or worked for a corporation for 30 years. And they got a 401k and they've got a couple $100,000 in the bank. And then there are people who have owned their own business for 20 years and have nothing in the bank, have nothing in investments. And I know this is a painful topic for some of you because I've talked to people. I have talked to people who have literally cried because they are nearing retirement and they have nothing, absolutely nothing in the bank. So this is completely avoidable, and I'm not young. I'm not a spring chicken anymore myself. So I can tell you, going through a financial crisis late in life, and divorce is probably the biggest financial crisis most of us will ever go through, it's hard to start over. But, it's entirely possible and it's manageable, but you need to make it a priority. You need to make stage 5 of taking money from your business and putting it into something else a priority. The really good news in the IT business is that we charge a lot of money, right? Most of the people on this call, I hope everybody charges at least $100 an hour, and a lot of people are at $120, $150. Some are at $250 an hour. So if you've got an investment where you can put aside $200 or $300 a month, that should be very, very manageable. When you look at the profit of your company, if you don't look at the profit of your company, you should. But when you look at the profit of your company in QuickBooks, and it says there at the bottom that you made $20,000 over and above your salary last year, all right, where did that go, right? Or 50 or 100 or whatever that number is. Where did that money go? Because that money somehow, some way, managed to work its way into your bank account. Did it get spent on things that are short-term, or did it get spent on things that are long-term? And there's nothing anybody can do except you to take that money and just have the dedication to say, I have a program from now on. The program says this money goes into investments. The program says this money goes into the stock, or this program says the money goes into rental property, or whatever it might be. So choose what you want to do. Talk to advisors about this. Talk to other small business owners. You might even have discussions with some of the clients that you know better and ask them, like, where do they put their money, right? The really good news about working with small businesses, almost every single person that you have as a client has money, right? They have probably are earning, their business has a top-line revenue of $1 million and probably has a profit in the $100,000 to $300,000 range. They pay themselves and then they invest that in something. Find out what they're doing, right? There's very few of your clients that make less than $1 million top-line revenue, right? So, it can take a long, long time to get to this. The interesting thing is you could start your business with a commitment to funnel off the profits. When you look at the business advice and the business books, pick 20 of your favorite books on business, and 19 of them are going to tell you to pay yourself first. It's one of the most common pieces of advice you'll ever hear. And yet most of us don't get past the working it stage in order to get to the stage where we invest. But you can always stretch a little bit. You can literally say, I'm going to drive a 5-year-old car. I'm going to drive a 10-year-old car. I'm going to drive my car until the wheels fall off. And instead of putting $200 a month or $300 or $400 or $500 a month into a car payment, I'm going to put that into investments. And I can't remember who it is. Somebody on the radio was saying the other day, live like nobody else so that when you retire, you can live like nobody else, right? So the live like nobody else today means, live like the millionaire next door, and then when you retire, you'll have all this money and you can live like nobody else, higher on the hog than the rest of them. So anyway, so that's just a key thing that I see a lot of people in our business not doing, and I'm not trying to make it sound easy by any stretch of the imagination. It is very difficult to do, and it's one of those things where you just have to commit to it. You have to literally say, my goal is to get to the point where I'm at stage 5. My goal is to get to the point where I can invest in my business or invest in other things besides my business. My goal is to make that happen. If you don't set that goal, it won't happen. You're not ever, ever, ever going to wake up one day and suddenly look around and have $10,000 in the bank. It won't happen. You have to put that money in the bank. So make a plan, figure out how you're going to do it. You're going to start out slow, and the first time that, it takes you 6 months to get $1,000 so you can go buy $1,000 investment on E-Trade, you will feel good about it, and you will want to do it some more. And then when you see it grow at 7% or 10% in the next year, you will want to do it some more. And so it is hard, but it's also something that you need to do. You need to do this for yourself and for your family. Again, it will not happen by itself. All right, enough of that. So the next stage is the one that a lot of people get to by dying, and that is exiting the business. And there's lots of ways that you can exit the business. You can exit the business by retiring. You can exit the business by selling it. You can merge with somebody. You can fail. I put it as stage 6 because I'm assuming that now you've got a business that is worth something. It's siphoning off money. It has some value. The thing about stage 5 is if you don't get to stage 5, selling your business in stage 6 is something that is not going to be very profitable. If you get to stage 5 and your business is actually, creating wealth, then when you get to stage 6 and sell your business, it can be worth a great deal of money. So there's lots of different ways that you might exit the business. But one way that you can exit the business is to simply take vacations, go do something else, start another business. Keep the business, but don't live inside the business. So that's one way to look at stage 6, is to be somebody who owns a business but is not tied to it. If you buy a franchise, you don't have to go work at the Subway or at the McDonald's every single day. You can just own that business and let other people run it. And when you have your small business set up that way, again, it can be very difficult to get to that point, but when you get to that point, you can be the true business owner and then let the business continue to exist even though you are outside of that business. You are simply an owner. And those are the most valuable businesses to sell because you literally can say, look, I go to a meeting once a month. I take checks and I take them to the bank and I put them in the bank, and that's what I do in this business. It runs itself. Well, that's a very valuable business to sell because the new owner can come in, and as long as they go to a meeting once a month and they don't make any changes, they will take the same amount of money to the bank, right? So that has some value. Finally, there's stage 7, and stage 7 is to completely think of a different way of thinking about business. And again, this is one of these things where a lot of people in our business never get to this point. And it is to think of things in a very entrepreneurial fashion. Unfortunately, most business owners, we always like to throw the term around on Facebook. Oh, I'm an entrepreneur, or people will introduce themselves at a networking meeting. Oh, I'm a solopreneur, I'm an entrepreneur. But really, they're not. They're business owners. In fact, they're job owners. Most people, if you're stuck at stage 3 and maybe stage 4, you own a job. You don't really own the business until you get to a different stage. But with an entrepreneurial view of the world, and I've had several discussions about this in the last week with different people, when you have an entrepreneurial view of the world, you see something, but you don't think of it as a product. Your brain automatically goes to, oh, what business is that? And when you think of it in those terms, it's much easier to say, I'm going to break out of the shell of what I've been doing, and I'm going to go do something else. And to think about your business from an entrepreneurial perspective means to think about, what can I do? What do I like to do? What do I want to have in this business? 3 or 4 years ago, I had a New Year's resolution that was basically, I want to write more, I want to speak more, I want to travel more. And that became what I did in my business. I literally transformed my business to one where, I travel all over the place and I do other things. And, this is becoming easier and easier and easier. So when you think about it from an entrepreneurial perspective, your business becomes not just this thing where you buy hardware and you buy software and you create a server and you put it in a client's office and you charge them for labor, right? That's a business model that somebody else came up with and handed you. But now, especially when you think about the evolution of robotics and the evolution of all of these new cool maker technologies, what do you want to do? What gives you juice? What makes you get up in the morning? What makes you look at things and say, man, it's fun to do that, right? Those are the things you need to pull into your business and say, what can I create that has not been created before? Where do I look around and see a vacuum? And entrepreneurs, you can be taught, you can be trained to think in an entrepreneurial fashion. Entrepreneurs literally look around and see, vacant spots in the world and say, wonder how I could fill that. And a lot of times, maybe you get 100 ideas about how to fill spots in the world, and only one of them makes sense financially. Only one of them makes sense with regard to where you are in your life and what materials exist and what opportunities exist and all of that. But when you start to think in those terms, you will see lots and lots of opportunities. And you can even think about growing your business to fit into a certain kind of opportunity. The other thing that you can do is think in terms of starting another business specifically for that venture. In my case, I started KP Enterprises way back when, and then I wrote a book, and so then I created a division called Great Little Book just to publish books. And then that division eventually became a separate corporation, and then I went to work for that corporation, and I owned but didn't run KP Enterprises for about 8 years, and then I, sold it off, and KP Enterprises became a brand name under the Great Little Book Corporation. And then Small Biz Thoughts evolved, and on and on and on. I've got many, many adventures, and that's why I started the whole slide deck with these lists of all of these websites that we're connected with. We have, I wouldn't call it a conglomeration, but there's many, many brands under one corporation. And so think in terms of all of the things you could do, and please don't be afraid to fail. Every business has to go through these stages. So if you start a brand new business, let's say that you want to help create devices for holding camera selfies, or I don't know what it is, right? You have to establish that business. You have to grow the business. You have to rejigger it and determine whether or not it's going to live or die. And then you need to work it and see how much money you get out of it. And click, 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 click. You need to go through those stages. And there are people who make a living thinking up businesses, getting them going just enough to prove the concept, and selling them off. And if they do it just right, they make $1,000 or $10,000 or $100,000. Once in a while, they make a few million. Once in a while, they make $10 billion. I can't promise you're going to make $10 billion, but your job will become much more fun when you begin to think in terms of a much higher level, and think about your IT business as one little piece of what you do that is significant It's a major piece. It funds the rest of the other thing. It makes the rest of it possible. But if you are worried that you're not going to have money for retirement and you're worried that you're going to get bored in your job or you're going to get burned out, adding a massive entrepreneurial perspective can help tremendously. And again, I think a lot of people are not going to do anything about this. They're webinar's over, they're going to go home and they're going to say, okay, that was interesting, never going to do it, right? But I encourage you to make this the year where you make some changes in your business and take hold of things and move ahead. So that's kind of it for this year. I am going to see if I can take a few questions. I hope you found something interesting and useful in the broadcast. Just remember that it all begins right now. Nothing happens by itself, and if there's anything that you want to do to improve your business this year, it's going to require that you take some time, take some classes, go to some conferences, read some books, do the things that make you successful. And, luckily, I think almost everybody I know knows what it takes to be successful, and then they just have to, they have to figure out whether or not that's something that they actually want to do. Alrighty. So, trying to get to the webinar tool here. All right. So, all right. Let's see here. So Amy says it takes a lot of years to get a business to stage 5. The learning curve in owning a business is steep, and constant reinvestment is necessary for a lot of years. I completely 100% agree. The live like nobody else so you can live like nobody else was Dave Ramsey. So, Trevor says he's entering into stage 6, and I know he is. I've talked to him. And he asks, how can we have a great company culture. How can I determine the cultural fit of a competitor's team, if we're going to sell the business? Well, it's interesting. I was involved with a company that, a couple of companies in the .com era, and one of them in particular sold off a major product to Intuit, and it became the Intuit point of sale system. And this guy courted many, many potential buyers, and he was the kind of boss that literally he would bring people in and show them around, and then the management team would all get together and talk about, well, what did you think, and so forth. And he would say things like, I don't like the way he treats his employees. We're not going to sell to him. Or, his stock option plan doesn't look anything like our stock option plan, but at least he's got one, right? So he's a prospective buyer that we're going to take seriously. And so, part of it is think about, how do you want your employees to be treated? If culture is truly, truly important, then think about what makes up that culture and kind of make it part of the evaluation process when you start talking to people. And congratulations for being at that stage in your business. Steve asks, what will cause the data to move from the cloud back to on-site location? Well, obviously, a piece of that is, clients who say, there's too much fear out there. I'll back it up to the cloud, but I want it to live locally. I think that we're going to see some of that. I also think that there may be some apps coming down the road that don't necessarily exist completely in the cloud. I think that part of the security going forward might be kind of the new two-factor authentication is a piece of your database locally and a piece of your database in the cloud. Which just makes the world more and more complicated, and that's what we call job security. So Trevor says he's looking to buy his competitors. Well, there again, what's their company culture and would it be a good fit? That's probably worth having a discussion about. And how do you determine that? I think the most important thing, if I were going to buy a business, is to make sure there are no disgruntled employees. The businesses that I've bought have always been extremely small, and I just bought the employees and brought them into my company. Let's see. Peter asks, my thoughts on creating a joint ventures with other IT companies versus acquisitions to grow. I think that's a good way to go. When I bought a company from a guy named Nico several years ago, it was probably a 60% overlap between what he did and what I did, and what we did is combine the companies, at first just serving each other's customers with our own specialties, and then eventually I ended up buying the company. But I think joint ventures of any kind are great. I have done many installs where either I was hired by somebody in my IT pro group or they hired me to get a job done. And so if you don't have a local user group or IT pro group, get one started, and I can certainly point you to some resources on that, because there's great opportunities in working with other folks in your community. Plus, it can be lonely at the top. So let's see. Amy says it's typically very difficult to sell a small business, and they're often undervalued. I think that's true. I'm arranging to sell my business to my employees over a period of time. I encourage everyone to think creatively and not simply fade away or give away the business value. That's absolutely true. That's kind of a cool thing. I'd love to hear more about that. There are so many things where you think about where people have done interesting things with their businesses. Even larger businesses have done things where the employees buy them out, or the employees have shares in the business and so forth. So there's lots and lots of great stuff. The other thing is, if you're not a reader, at least sign up for Audible and listen to books. There's so many great business ideas, even books that were written like Good to Great or Great by Choice. They're written for a much bigger business audience, but man, there's so many cool lessons for us. And the more that we think in a big way, the more likely we are to have those kinds of experiences and figure out how to make them happen within our own businesses. There's a sort of a philosophy that, people do businesses with businesses that are the same size, and I think there's a lot of that that's true. But it's also the case that you can learn from any business opportunity that you get involved in. So I encourage you all to go forth and make this an amazing and prosperous year, and stay connected with me on Twitter and Facebook and LinkedIn and all that kind of stuff. I would love to see you at a conference, and I want to thank everybody who has helped me make this business into something where I get to engage in people at this level on a regular basis. It's an amazing thing, and I'm very happy to be in this business. So good year to everyone, and I wish you all the luck in the world. Please email me if you have any questions or comments, and stay tuned to my newsletter, and I'll let you know where a recording of this will be posted. Thank you.